All right, here we go. Welcome to, what do we call this now? We need to come up with a name for the show. But the Let's Do Video live stream, I guess. And I am particularly excited today. Go to the studio here. Tim, good to see you. And
Likewise, David.
particularly good to see you because we just had Zoomtopia, and usually you're my event buddy. And this time you were my virtual event buddy, so it's good to be sitting here next to you and be a little closer.
Likewise, yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but I did attend the breakout sessions and the hybrid event with the EMEA focus, the European region focus, yesterday. So that was really good.
So what did you think? Let's start with, what did you think of the virtual of the event and the hybrid? It's not just virtual, it's hybrid. Did you feel connected? Did you feel you were able to find all the sessions? Did you feel that you weren't being ignored? How was your experience?
Yeah, as usual. And I can't stand the term eating your own dog food. I prefer drinking your own champagne.
Yes.
But Zoom used their own platform. It worked really well, well supported. They used the chat capabilities. It was very easy to navigate. So yeah, from an end user perspective, really good. I think as far as hybrid events go, I really think that Zoom are leading the way in terms of that experience at the moment. From what I've experienced so far in this hybrid sort of world, I think Zoom are really sort of leading the charge there. Really nice experience.
Yeah, and just to I want to get to the news because it's all about the news, and they had so much news. But from the perspective of someone who attended the event, it's not just the Zoom events platform; it's their best practices. It's the way they put on event. Let me bring down. We have a new. I'm shaking. I'm so nervous. Is it going to work? Hey, we have our new technology, our screen, and let me show it just in case anyone hasn't seen this. So this was the main stage, and this was the celebrity speaker, and behind her, those little circles were remote attendees. If you were remote, with Zoom, you could turn on your camera, and they were popping in and out. It wasn't those same, 8-ish people. They kept floating in and floating out. So it was a little motion. It was fun to watch. And when they would appear up there, they would see themselves. They would always smile. So it's a new person comes up and smiles every time. So it definitely felt a connection with the virtual people. It felt bigger. It seems like the littlest of things, but the emojis. I love the little and younger people make fun of me because I say emotes when it's emojis and emojis when it's emotes. I don't know the difference, but the little heart things, you can't applaud for everything you like. It'll interrupt the flow of the speaker, but sometimes you like something, you want to do something. People who were there in person were logged into the event platform so that they can do that.
Yeah.
And one more quick one. They took questions from the event platform chat. So if you were there in person, you didn't raise your hand and say, I have a question. You had to. So it forced everyone to be on the same chat, whether you were there or not. So that kind of
Fantastic.
thing, right? They get a big thumbs up for that. So should we get to the news itself? I feel like there
was a lot, wasn't there? My word, a heck of a this. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I feel like the big news is that there's so much news. Like that in and of itself is a news story, and it's a bit controversial. It's funny. I want to well, first, before we even get in, I want to give a big virtual hug to the analyst community. I feel like a lot of my fellow analysts have been doing this longer than me, know a lot more than me about certain things, or smarter than me, and they're all so nice and so welcoming to me. And I spent so much time talking to them. I learned so much. I feel like I could do a 10-episode series on Zoomtopia. But one thing they were all saying was there was too much news. And at first I'm like, oh, it's like a compliment thing. Oh, there's so much news. There was too much news. And they said, no, David, it was too much news. And I disagree. I think if Zoom, if they can do all of these things, if they can put out these thousands of features and support them and all these new things, I think they should do it. If it turns out I'm wrong and it's too much and a bunch of it flops, then okay. But when the White Album came out, every song wasn't great, but no one said there's too many songs. If you could do it, do it. But there was so many announcements that everyone said there were too many announcements. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, and there are an awful lot of announcements, and it's difficult to try and assimilate them and understand, why Zoom are doing this, how the market will receive this, where the customers will see value. So, I guess from an analyst perspective, it can be overwhelming, but it's our job, of course, to make sense of all the stuff that matters and how that relates to the market and how customers can benefit. So, yeah, there was an awful lot of news. A lot of it really, really good. Some of it very interesting and completely different areas that you may not have expected. So I guess let's dive into it,
You want to
David.
dig into it? Let's bring back our screen. I'm loving this so much. First of all, let's just their logo now. They do this thing where they start out with Zoom and then they expand it and then they fill in everything and then they unexpand it. Internally, I've heard some of the Zoom employees call it the accordion. I think is cute. And there's already some new O's they have to add. There's already a lot of O's there. And we've gone through them in previous episodes. We talked about why it makes sense to doing contact center and why they're heavy on events. By the way, notice that chat is first, which I think that was definitely on purpose. There must have been so many fights among the product marketing teams who gets to be first.
Well, you know what, David? We also had that at our Zoom event, didn't we, for analysts, where Eric said he started off with chat, and it's like, wow, Zoom is traditionally and well known and respected for the conferencing world, but even at our analyst event, for video, beg your pardon. The main sort of thing that Eric started off at the analyst event was with chats. There's a recognition that Zoom needs to be more than its heritage. So that for me was a revelation in itself. So the same at Zoomtopia.
I've been thinking about that a lot since that event, since we talked about it, and it makes sense. And yeah, as much as they're pushing chat, I would say to push it twice as hard, because the way I've been saying it is chat is so sticky. If I was working for a big company and the boss said, hey, I know you all love Zoom, but we're not using Zoom meetings anymore. We're using Tim meetings, and I'm going to send you Tim links to join your Tim meetings. I'll click on the link and I'll join the meeting, whatever it is. If it works, I might say, hey, it doesn't have this and that feature that I liked with Zoom, but whatever, I'm okay with it. But if you say, hey, we've been on Slack, Microsoft Teams chat, Zoom chat, whatever, for a year and a half now, and all our projects are in there and all our channels in there, I want to switch to a new chat. No way. We're gonna have to talk about that. So if Zoom really wants to get into everything, into our lives the way that they're trying to, if they really want to compete with the big guys, if they're going to have email, it has to start with chat. They have to get us living in their chat. So,
and one of the nice, and maybe you'll be covering this later, but for me, even simple from a user perspective, but I'm not going to underestimate the engineering effort, was the combination of bringing in meetings chat and Teams chat in the same place. Now, there's a number of vendors out there that have them separate, and you're clicking all over the place trying to think, did I mention that in a meeting? Did I have that in individual chats? And it gets really confusing. So even the simple things from an end user perspective shows that Zoom has a different and unique perspective on this. And it's all focused around the end user and delighting the customer, which is really good. So, I think it's very interesting.
You say it's a little thing, and maybe I am just too much of a chat nerd. But when Zoom announced that they're combining their in-meeting chat with their team chat, I was like, it was like when a new Harry Potter movie came out, and the Harry Potter fans are like, we've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for this. Yeah, that's if you're focused on the chat, that is a big deal, and it shows they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and also they did some catch-up stuff. So I know that Microsoft announced scheduled chat, and people might think, well, why is that important? Well, it's overwhelming to have, we've still got this perception that it's instant messaging, and it's not. It's asynchronous communications, it's chat, and people can respond when they want to. Yeah. So scheduled chat is nice, not only from a courtesy perspective, but also in Europe, there's some legislation around contacting people out of hours. Yes. So it might be that, in France or Germany or the Netherlands, that you want to delay sending out a chat message because you're breaking the law if you send it out of working hours. So there's lots of things there that Zoom are leading the way in terms of taking their own initiatives. There's other areas that they're catching up with, but there's just so much. But Teams chat seems to be a primary focus, which is really good.
Yeah, I'm excited about what they're doing with chat. I'm going to be keeping an eye on it. I mean, and it's funny because, no, it doesn't have all the connections and add-ins and plugins that Microsoft Teams or even Slack has. They've just been doing it longer. They've had more companies partnering with them. It can't pretend to do that, but it's good. I think people don't realize, wait a minute, Zoom has a chat and it's good. I've had this conversation where I'm in a Zoom meeting and I say, open up the app that we're in right now. What's the tab there? And they go, oh, wow, look, there's chat. Hey, this is clean. This is good. Can I share files? Yeah, you can share files.
And adding things like translation in there as well, which is good. So you can see that they are going through their list of features that they know that they need to add, and listening to customers, of course. So they're not throwing in features willy-nilly or just for the sake of it because a competitor has done it. They're listening to customer feedback to see what customers actually want.
Yeah. And I feel like that ties into, let's go right to the biggest announcement. They saved this for last at the keynote. We're like, what are they gonna? So I'm not gonna save it for last, and that is, let's bring up Zoom email. And just to be clear, because I was confused on it too, is it its own email service, or am I still using Gmail? And this is like I have my letsdovideo.com email address, but it's really Gmail. It's both. It's either. And that's smart, because email is just about as sticky as as chat. It's hard to get people to switch their emails. And if I'm on Gmail, I'm on Outlook, I'm not starting all over again. But if this is a nice, clean interface, a nice Zoom, easy, friendly, wonderful, clean interface, and it's in the same Zoom app, so now when I make a meeting in the same calendar, I think the calendar is really the crucial element.
Yes.
Hey, that's exciting to me. And there is a Zmail service. If you are starting from scratch or you are willing to switch, it's Zmail. And right off the bat, it has end-to-end encryption. And real end-to-end encryption, which I don't think is standard on everything else. So it's starting out with a compelling feature.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that's really stuck out here, and I've got to say Zmail and not Zmail. So Zmail sounds much better than not Zmail. So Zmail makes a lot of sense because I think Zoom, in order to grow, wants to increase the average revenue per user in that long tail of customers that they would have got during the pandemic. Those yoga teachers, Pilates teachers, small businesses that all of a sudden had to move online. So there's an additional revenue stream there for that long tail of customers that they onboarded during COVID and during the pandemic, and have realized that they can change their business model accordingly. But as you rightly say, if you own the email address, you own the calendar. If you own the calendar, you own the conferencing capability for scheduling. If you own that, there's an integration point between all of the different calendaring services and also all of the different conferencing and video services as well. So for me, this is fundamental to perhaps having a way in which you can unify across all those disparate conferencing services. So a very smart move. I think part of it monetizes that big long tail of small businesses and mum and pop shops. And I think the other area is clearly this is a great way of integrating all of those disparate conferencing services and potentially, switching them off a competitive product. If people like the platform, they've got an easy way to switch. So yeah, very interesting from a strategic perspective.
And from the user perspective, vast oversimplification. But Tim, how many times in the last month have you gone into the Zoom app to copy your Zoom link and then gone into whatever your calendar is to post your Zoom link into your calendar?
Exactly. Yes.
Not the worst thing in the world, but it'd be nice to not have to do that anymore.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go on to our next announcement. Should we dig into the big one? Let's talk about, before we talk about spots, let me just share, this was really cool. And this is where I was missing Tim. This is our little crew. I love all these people. This is the UCAV analysts, and this is in Zoom headquarters. And we're meeting with the product marketing managing marketer team. Funny. And first of all, look how big this team is. Look how many products they have. And some of them are doing double duty. If you told me 5 years ago that Zoom needed more than one product marketing manager, I would say, what, you really need one for meetings and another one for webinars? Come on, But now, first of all, yeah, they do need one for meetings and another for webinars, but they have everything else in the accordion. So we're talking about their growth and everything they're doing a lot. But what was funny is we had this group of analysts and me with my crazy purple hair, but a bunch of serious analysts who know more than you'll ever want to know about phones, and they could talk to the product marketing manager about phones and ask anything they want. And the email guy was there, the calendar guy was there, or person was there, I should say, because most of them, whatever, the diversity is appreciated, I should say. All they talked about was spots. All the analysts talked about, it was to the point where we were laughing. We're like, okay, what's your question about spots? What's your question about spots? What's your question about spots? Because spots is so new and different that it required a lot of explanation. So let's dig in to Zoom spots. Do you want to give a quick explanation of your perception of what it is at first? Because everyone's saying something different.
So my perception of Zoom spots, I think it's a persistent video. How would I describe it? A video workspace, really, a persistent video workspace where people would come in perhaps during the course of the day, and almost like a virtual office space or a virtual department space or something along those lines. It's very difficult to quantify because I haven't seen anything like it before, but for me, it's that persistent video nature of having team members or project members in the same place, really. How would you describe it, David?
I have a few different ways to describe it. One way I think of it as upgraded presence. I want you to know I'm online. Instead of a green circle, you could see my live video, or if I'm feeling shy, my picture. And instead of clicking on me to start a chat, you click on me and we start a video meeting. So it could be an upgrade on presence. Another way I think of it is a virtual cubicles. Instead of sitting and just staring at 30 people in their cubicles, I'm sitting and staring at them in their virtual cubicles. And I can see there's a lot of resistance to this. People are saying, because it's new and different, I don't want people looking at me all day. Well, when I worked in an office, people were looking at me all day. Well, they weren't really, but they could. They could walk over at any time and peek over.
I guess it has
more
got
privacy
that.
with this. In the cubicle, I couldn't turn off my camera. With this, you could say I'm taking a walk, turn off your camera.
It's interesting how we jump on the sort of micromanage. Oh, my manager can see me all the time now. I'm really excited by the potential of this because there's part of me that thinks I laugh when people say avatars, because I think, really, what am I going to get from having an avatar in a one-on-one meeting? But if I felt a little conspicuous or a little self-conscious in a spot, maybe if I had an avatar there, it would feel less of an intrusion. Also, I was sort of thinking, what if you had the ability to have sort of proximity audio? So what I mean by that is maybe I could drag a spot a bit further away from people. So if I was working on something that I wanted to focus on, I heard a background murmur. And maybe if I wanted to speak to someone, I could move my spot avatar closer to someone. There's all sorts of different ways in which this could develop. So it's interesting.
Just jump in for a quick second on that idea. Self-promote the channel. If you click on the Let's Do Video channel, look at the other YouTube videos I have. There's one where I review something called Bramble, and it does what Tim described. It looks kind of like a video game, and you have your little avatars, and when you move closer to each other, your video pops up. You see them, their live video, and you hear them, and as you move away, they fade away. So you could, go to a private area and people know that you're online, go down to a corner of the virtual office, or you could walk over and so if you want to see a demonstration of what Tim just talked about, check out the Bramble video. It is
excellent. Thank you.
It's a fun concept, but is the world ready for? When I like something, sometimes it's like, yeah, David, we know you like video games.
Okay, so let's think about this use cases. So one could be education. You want your professor, somewhere, and you want to work on something and then consult with your professor, or you're working on something within a project team. Maybe you're in the contact center and you want your supervisor to be there in the background as well, just because it's a difficult call. So I can see the use cases. I think at the moment there's a lot of people that are worried about the big brother element to it, or the micromanager element to it. But I can see this developing in all sorts of different ways. I guess Zoom will be testing the water with this feature and then listening to customer feedback. I've no doubt that they'll apply engineering resource to this to sort of take it in the way in which customers and the market sees fit.
And I think it's one of those things where, how are we going to use it? Wait and see. I think the customers are going to find out ways to use it. I think this is a tool that could be used in a lot of different ways. It's just a meeting with things mixed up in different places. I mean, it's video and audio, but you got to click different ways to get to the video and audio. It's a different workflow. But I think people will come up with stuff. I'm positive about it because I've been doing a homebrew version of this for years. My partner Anna, she's in Virginia. I'm in Florida. Even before the pandemic, we weren't really be able to meet face to face every day except over video. And I didn't want to feel like we're just contractor team sharing projects over email. I wanted to feel like a team, so we get on video and minimize. And when you minimize on Zoom, it actually makes a little thumbnail of the video. We mute and we get in the corner. We do this technique where we work for 25 minutes and then take a break, work for 25 minutes and take a break.
Pomodoro, yeah.
Pomodoro, yes. Yes. We do Pomodoro and it works, and we feel like a team, we feel like we're friends, we feel like we know each other, and every time we do it, like, I got 10 times as much done than I did, yesterday when I was working on my own. And part of it is respecting the stuff that draws up the concerns. It's not 8 hours of mandatory Pomodoro time. She would not want me staring at, or she would not want to be looking at this for 8 hours. It's for, hey,
yeah.
I feel like knocking some stuff out. Let's do a couple hours of it.
And the other interesting area would be things like we've spoken about, water cooler moments and these sort of ways in which you can sort of have these serendipitous moments with people that you haven't met before in the organization. Well, maybe with a little bit of AI, you could have a virtual coffee event, 11 o'clock, let's all break for coffee. And then all of a sudden, AI puts you into these spot rooms where you can speak with people you haven't spoken to before, but might share a common interest or a common goal or something like that. So initially, interesting concept, but I can see this developing in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah, this one's going to be fun to watch, and I love the fact that there was just so much interest in it. Let me see. I have a few more buttons to share. Oh, you know what? I haven't shared. The events team deserves credit. The event itself is always great. There's not enough. I didn't take enough good pictures. They had a donut station. This picture doesn't do it justice. The donuts were amazing, but the food, whoever they get for the food's always ridiculous. It's always so good. And the live music, this year they had 3 bands with 3 different acts, and they were all just amazing. Everyone there, all different ages or whatever, people were like, this is my kind of music, this isn't my kind of music. We're like, oh my God, the music is so good this year. And fun stuff at the booths. They had a 3D video station. These are my friends at Aver. They had lightsabers, so they got in the middle of the 3D video station at the booth area and made a little 3D video. The way they have everything set up is great. The event was great. Everyone who was there, I think, I can't speak for everyone, but I had a lot of fun.
So just to recap then, David, Zoomtopia, for those people that might not be familiar with it, if they've been living in, I don't know, in a bunker for the last 10 years, customers, partners, analysts, is that the audience? I believe it's customers and partners and some analysts as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, they it's funny. They really spoil the analysts. I mean, they did extra for us. They had extra sessions for us. They really, I really appreciate the way they take care of the analysts. But I think with Zoom, it's always customers first.
Yeah.
It's always just the tone of the event, the tone of the presentations. Obviously, they love their partners. They gave their partners a lot of love. They had HP, on the stage for the keynote. But yeah, it felt very customer facing.
Yeah, good.
Is there anything else we need to talk about at the event itself? I mean, there's millions of features and everything we could talk about.
There was some interesting stuff about Zoom Rooms, wasn't there? So that's the workplace reservation system where they were looking at smart suggestions, where you can start looking at, I want to come in with David, I'm working on a project with David, let's reserve spaces together. There was the intelligent director capability as well, wasn't there, where it automatically selects best video. There's interop with Google Meet. Yeah, there's
Can we
so
talk
much. I'm
about the
trying to.
workplace thing first? Because that was
Yes.
so cool. So they
Yeah.
when they spoiled the analysts, one of the things they did, they brought us to Zoom headquarters afterwards. That picture I had us. I'll
Oh
show
yeah.
in a minute. I have a picture of us. I'll have a picture of it. And so we're in Zoom headquarters. I'm making a bunch of Willy Wonka jokes. I'm like, where's the fizzy lifting drinks and everything. Um, but they showed us this workplace reservation thing. When you walk in, there's a big screen and it's a map of the offices, and some of them are green and some of them are red, and you can see how many seats there are, and you can see which ones have video, and it's very click and play, very Apple-y, and you just click and you get a room, and you could reserve later or see what's available now, and as we walk from room to room, there's little touch screens on each room that are also connected to the whole system. And I've heard
Wow.
about things like this before, and I've seen demos before, but this seemed particularly easy and almost kind
Well,
of fun.
that's what
Everyone
you
was
want,
like,
isn't it?
can I click on it?"
In a hybrid world, you don't want to travel, 2 hour commute down the 101 and then find out that there's no workspace together, or David's in a different building or a different part of the building. You want to be able to manage your commute, make sure that you're doing meaningful work regardless of your location and because of your location. So if I'm choosing to go into the office, I want to make it as easy as possible. This sounds really interesting.
Yeah, that was had a lot of yeah. Sometimes the analysts can be critical. We're looking for something wrong, but there was a lot of ooh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And they had a demo. This is actually pretty cool. I didn't I wish I brought a picture of it. They had a room set up where they brought us to was actually the remote demo floor. It's not really a floor where people are actually working. It's a floor where people call in to get demos of to see the other side of the room experience. So they had a lot of Zoom rooms set up, and one of them they had it was an odd shape room to show how they could do this intelligent director thing that you were just talking about. And they had cutouts of like Elvis sitting there because they have to have people in the chair. So I was sitting next to this cutout of Elvis, but the normal angle would be a big wide capture of the room and everyone's head at different angles. But they turn this thing on and it intelligently, digitally figures out where the people are and crops them and turns it into, it looks like a Zoom meeting. It looks, everyone has
Wow.
their own little box and everyone is the same size. And that's the big trend that everyone's talking about, meeting equity, but it
Missing
was a really
equity.
clean implementation of it. It worked.
That's really nice. That's really great.
Yeah. So should we wrap up with my little personal Zoomtopia wish? Are we ready for that?
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah,
Yeah, I
sounds
feel
interesting.
like Zoomtopia is a good time, and I want to take advantage of obviously I'm supposed to, as an analyst, care about what the market wants, and I want to cover this stuff, but there's something that I'm very passionate about, which is using OBS and Zoom. I'm using OBS and Zoom right now. I'm using OBS to produce this because OBS is the tool that you use to produce. It's not the only tool, but it is the tool you use to produce live videos and all the tricks I've been doing, things floating in, floating out. And I'm using Zoom to bring in Tim because Zoom's what you use to bring in people on video. But unfortunately, most streamers are not using Zoom with OBS because there's no integration. They're using tools you never heard of. And I don't want to say Zoom. I don't want to say, Tim, I'm sending you a link to something you never heard of so we could do this. I want to send them a Zoom link. And it's important to me. And I don't want to show off too many tricks because people always say, oh, is that what it does? And it does so much more. But it helps you tell the story. Like I want to tell the story of how usually when I go to an event like Zoomtopia, I'm happy that Tim's there because Tim and we go get a drink before. We're not big drinkers, but it's nice to meet in person and have a drink after the sessions. And then usually we travel together on whatever the local travel is. This is so much fun for me. And be able to do this live and do it on Zoom. And then we go to get our briefings. And this time we had our briefing at Zoom headquarters, which I talked about. And hopefully next time Tim will be there. So you could see how I'm so passionate about this. And what I would love to see is real integration. I would love to see a Zoom for OBS team. And OBS, it has third-party docs. It has, and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here, but it has on its interface, I have a dock for YouTube that I use when I'm streaming to YouTube that gives me all the YouTube controls. It has one for Twitch. There should be a Zoom dock. And I should be able to, it's, I'm getting excited just thinking about what should be in the Zoom doc, but it would change the way a lot of people stream. It would make the default to use Zoom to connect and use OBS to stream. So
Well, you
that's
know
my
what,
little
David? It's
my Zoomtopia wish.
but it's not just streaming, is it? Because of course, people, what you're doing here is your TikTok, Twitch, and other sort of streaming platforms set this expectation for really great broadcast quality video. Now, if I'm on a town hall or I'm doing an internal event, I might want to equip a underutilized meeting room with an NDI camera and the Elgato decks that I can just press a button and all of a sudden I'm transported into a bar or into space or whatever. Or I might want to frame different things. For me, there's a whole ecosystem that Zoom could be building out on Zoom events, hardware platform vendors, AV partners. Imagine a Zoom certification for Zoom events where you can equip a meeting room with this broadcast quality TV studio like setup with green screens, and then do some training around OBS with Zoom integration, for example. There's a whole area here that's untapped. And I think as we move into these hybrid events, as people become more comfortable with using these solutions, and people want to have this more immersive experience rather than just having the Brady Bunch style meeting, very flat, quite frankly, sort of meeting experience. You can delight your employees, your customers, your clients with this sort of setup. It doesn't have to cost a fortune. It's quite cost effective, and it's certainly going to be cheaper than hiring out a hotel and having your own AV crew following about for a in-person event. So for me, this is a great opportunity here for Zoom that I hope they step up to.
Yeah, I'm doing this myself in my home office, and it's not thousands of dollars worth of gear. I got okay lights, I got a good camera, I got a good mic, and I got my Stream Deck, but my tutorials on this get a lot of views because it's fudging together a lot of different things. Now you really got me thinking. I was thinking my dream partnership is if the OBS dev team and the Zoom dev team became best friends. Oh boy, but you bring in Elgato. Now that's my dream partnership. Elgato and Zoom and OBS all together. Wow. Now you're talking, yeah, for under $1,000, getting everything you need. And if it all just kind of click together, doing what I'm doing right now without being an expert. Oh boy. Right.
We can but hope. Yeah. Let's look at our crystal balls for next year.
So, this is a fun conversation, and thanks to everyone at Zoom for Zoomtopia for hosting it for us. We learned a lot about what's going on at Zoom. We had a great time, and giving us a model for best practices for a hybrid event. All right. Oh,
Absolutely.
The one button I didn't make is the button to our closing scene. So we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Sounds great. Look forward to it, David.
This is awesome. I love doing this with you. This is great.
Likewise. It's really good fun.